The World Wide Web was invented at CERN by Tim Berners-Lee, and it was for scientists to exchange information and so on. And so I was invited to CERN to give a keynote there at the first World Wide Web conference. And there were two keynotes, my keynote and Tim Berners-Lee.
Welcome to the Encrypted podcast, your gateway to the future of technology and innovation, right here in the heart of Dubai's dynamic tech universe. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and together with Dubai Blockchain Center, we are embarking on a journey that unravels the minds of tech visionaries through the digital frontiers that are shaping our world. Hello and welcome everyone to the Encrypted podcast. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and today we're really happy to have here David Chaum, a well-known computer scientist, a pioneer in cryptography and privacy-preserving technologies, and a widely recognized as an inventor of digital cash, Godfather of Cryptocurrency, as they call him. David is currently leading XX Network. It's a completely private, quantum-secure, decentralized messaging and payment platform. He's also known for other fundamental innovations in cryptography, including privacy technologies such as mixnets and secure voting systems. He's also known for having a PhD in computer science from Berkeley. He has taught at New York Radio School of Business and the University of California. David is the founder of the International Association for Cryptologic Research, the cryptography group at the Center for Mathematics and Computer Science in Amsterdam, and he's the founder of DigiCash, as I mentioned earlier. Among breakthrough projects and are digital blind signatures, multi-party computation, and random sample voting. So many things, David. Yeah. What do you like? What else probably our audience should know about you that probably I haven't mentioned so far?
Oh well, first, Maria, let me thank you. So, we talked about doing this podcast
for a
very long time, and I'm really glad we were able to sit down together now. It's a great pleasure. And
likewise.
Thank you. I'm looking at I've got a lot of different ideas and projects sort of underway, but I'm so I founded the XX Network,
yes,
but it's running autonomously now through this foundation, and I have really tried to double down and focus on my new technique, which is a new thing, which is called better than money.
That sounds like really intriguing, I would say so. Like, what is right now better than money in this world?
Well, actually, it took me a while to recognize this, but money is a bad deal for the poor because the poor hold money in order to buy things, to do transactions, but it is always becoming worth less and less, whereas richer people...
Are you talking about, in this case, about cash specifically?
Yeah. Money in a lot of countries, it's getting worth less and less very rapidly. That's not very fun. Sometimes commercial banks, go bankrupt if there's a run on the bank and then you're left with nothing. In any event, it's not a way that you can invest and hope to make more, create a larger value and get ahead. So you're just always kind of living hand to mouth if you're poor with money, because you have to hold money to buy food, but it always keeps slipping away. So money is I like to say, it's a screw deal for the poor. It's not a good deal. It's not what you want. And actually, it would be better for everyone on the planet if we got rid of money and the poor instead invested in different kinds of assets. And that would then have a lot of benefits.
So you're in this case, in other words, what you're trying to say that you want to make this gap between those who have bigger income and those who have very low income. You believe that one of the major issues is in this case,
the kind of money,
the
whole money, the way that that transfers of value are conducted. I really do.
Okay, so that's very interesting. But how do you believe, like, if we eliminate cash and let's say money as a notion, what can be like used instead?
Sure.
And how can we bridge this gap potentially?
Well, so I worked on it for about a year because really hard, because I recognized that the poor are really being harmed by money, and what they need is a better way to transfer value. And so what I've developed is called Better Than Money.
Okay.
And it is a way that anyone can keep all of their value in an asset portfolio. So they have to allocate it between different asset types. Think of like the 1,100 ETFs that BlackRock offers. There's a lot of different types of assets that are available today. And, AI could help you decide how to do that, or you might copy someone else's portfolio. But anyway, so you keep all your value, even if you only have $100, keep it in assets and that are hopefully like Apple stock and Bitcoin, and you're starting to make a little bit of money, increasing value. And then when you have to transfer value to someone to buy something, you can transfer value out from your portfolio of assets directly into the portfolio of your counterparty.
So in this case, when you're talking about like this, when you mentioned about BlackRock ETF, it's one of their products.
Yes.
When you're talking about Better Than Money system, let's in this case break it down. What kind of assets or what kind of products are we talking about?
Well, so Larry Finkett, founder.
And very important, this is not investment advice, because we are here at the podcast. We are definitely talking about technology, but we're not like saying in any way where to invest or where like to put your money. But
good point. Yeah, but I just want to say historically, about 20 years ago, almost exactly, Larry Fink created the idea of an ETF, an exchange traded fund.
Yeah.
Specifically in order to allow, let's say, the middle class to have access to investing in all the kinds of things that rich people could invest in, and the middle class was not able to. So the exchange traded fund was an idea that Larry Fink had at BlackRock, to his company, to do well by doing good, because he wanted to expose the broader public to some of these more unusual types of investments. And so those include all kinds of things like, index metals, any kind of commodities, currencies, you name it. Right now, I think BlackRock has over 1,100 ETFs, and altogether globally, there's about 10,000 ETFs. They're not only issued by U.S. companies. There's about $10 trillion under management. That's 10% of global assets under management. And so it grew like crazy. And it's very well understood. And the idea is that, as the owner of an ETF, you really have a claim against the underlying asset. So they have a legal structure developed for this custody. So this is, these are the kind of assets that people should really think about investing. There's something there for everyone. And an AI can help you choose the right ones for you. It depends on, say, how old you are, and, how, whether you're more risk or less risk averse. Some people have relatives or residences or, involved in more than one country. So then you have to take that into account. Your business might involve baking bread, so you need to know about the price of wheat and energy to run the ovens. So major corporations never want to hold cash. They want to invest in things that help them hedge against the kinds of exposure they might have and help them make money. So, so what I'm proposing, in essence, is to take the whole financial system we have today and use technology just to turn it.
Dubai, home for innovations. Bit in history back, because
Sure.
you were the one who back in 1982 you applied cryptography to cash. So this is how, and 30 years ago you sent your first online transaction.
Yes.
So do you remember how it happened? Because actually it kind of spurred a lot of teachings and a lot of, in this case, movement, which later on led to, let's say, developments in cryptography, which later on led to crypto, which is like the new as well option for a lot of people to use.
Yeah, but it's better than money's gonna take over. But let's come back to that.
Okay, let's
debate
about that. Yes.
No, we don't debate it. It's
I'm really
clear
curious,
to me.
To know,
but that will happen. But let's roll the cameras back to 40 years ago. I was a graduate student at UC Berkeley, and there was a new head for the National Security Agency, the secret code agency of the U.S. government. He said, anyone that talks about cryptography at a conference or organizes a conference, a session, we're going to throw the book at them.
Why?
Because cryptography was considered by it to be a military, like a national security issue, just like nuclear weapons. They felt, because if you design a nuclear bomb in your basement in the United States, it's born classified. The government considers it to be a state secret, even though you didn't base it on their information. Same with cryptography. He said, cryptography is born classified. You can't talk about it in a public forum. You can't organize a forum. And if you do, we're going to just throw the whole book at you. So, I had realized how fundamentally important cryptography would be in the information age, which I saw coming even back then. And it's the only way to really protect the individual. So I basically just organized a conference on cryptography.
Oh, when was it?
This was in 1982. I risked spending my whole life in jail to set cryptography free. And one of the papers I gave there was about electronic money, a way to have privacy-protected money, ecash, and that 10 years later, I guess it was maybe more like 12 years later, but whatever. In the mid-90s, I made the first ecash payment, and that was, so I do remember it exactly, and it's because I have also seen a video. I have a video of it. Maybe you remember that the World Wide Web was invented at CERN by Tim Berners-Lee, and it was for scientists to exchange information and so on. And so I was invited to CERN to give a keynote there at the first World Wide Web conference, and there were two keynotes: my keynote and Tim Berners-Lee, and mine was first.
Amazing.
Yeah, and what I did in that keynote was I made the first ecash payment internationally. So I paid from CERN to Amsterdam, and it took a lot to do in those days. They had this giant projector so they could show my computer screen to the audience. Normally, we used to work with slides in those days, but this was a digital, and I could show that me actually using the ecash app and make the payments. And later in the day, I went out to the patio at the cafeteria there, because it's like a 24/7, scientific lab, sort of kind of grungy, and people are eating all different hours there because they're there all the time. And so I'm sitting out there on the patio, my laptop, which in those days was a little heavier duty than laptops today, and I made like a short press release about it, like 3 or 4 paragraphs, sent it to my kind of amateur part-time PR guy who worked for our company doing all kinds of odd jobs, Paul Dennison, and he, sent it out to some people. Next thing I know, it's in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, everywhere. I was on TV in 12 different languages that I don't even know where, I was at a, grocery store, an elevator, people say, well, you're the, it was a big deal. People were just fascinated by the idea that a number could be worth money. That was my invention, and it had the privacy. And so Yeah, I remember that, pretty clearly. And no, in those days, I used to wear suits, and I had a lot more
You're
hair.
still wearing a suit,
No,
like
in a
a
real, like a
jacket.
full with the ties and everything, and I looked a little better in a suit.
Yeah, you look nice today.
You're
as
very
well.
kind. Yeah.
So, by the way, talking about ecash, because electronic cash application that aims to preserve a user's anonymity, and at that time, you inventing many cryptographic protocols like blind signature that you
Yes.
did, mixed networks, and the dynamic cryptographic protocols.
That's true. Yes.
All of these things were invented thanks to you.
I invented those things, and so this kind of inspired the cypherpunk movement because it meant that you could do all the things that are needed in society while still maintaining your anonymity or privacy, control over your own information. So it was very influential, and you mentioned the mixed networks.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's turned out now to be a really interesting and important thing because the original ecash, which I demonstrated, it had this sort of famous list of spent coins to prevent you from spending the coin twice, right? Because you get the coins are blind signed by the bank, and then you unblind them and you could spend them. They can't take the money from you, and you can spend it, and they don't know it was you. And this, Deutsche Bank issued it, and we issued it as Cyberbucks. There's a whole ecash museum. You can see it on my website. Yeah, a lot of stuff about that. But now, this guy I know, and you might, he's a super great guy, Thomas Moser. He actually is on the board of the Swiss National Bank. But he is a wonderful guy, and he came to me and he said, David, I want to make ecash great again.
Okay.
And I said, okay, Thomas, I'll help you. And so we worked on it. And so we created ecash 2.0. And he said, well,
Is it the Project Turbulent?
Yeah, exactly, because that's half paid for by the Swiss National, or not exactly half, but roughly joint venture and the Bank for International Settlement. And they built it.
And actually, I was really curious about this project in particular because you've been advocating for online privacy for many years. And in this case, it's like privacy tool. If we're talking about like doing transactions online, you definitely, they have to be private so you feel secure. But when we're talking about CBDCs, they're lacking very important, let's say, pillar. If we're talking about people who are in favor of decentralization, they're lacking decentralization. So in this case, when we're talking about CBDCs, we cannot say 100% that they're private. Is that correct? So please tell me how.
That's not exactly correct.
Okay,
I can tell you that,
So,
it's a really interesting thing. Sure, please. Yeah.
So I'm really curious. I would like to know that if we're talking about CBDC, and this, for me, it's really interesting project that you've been also mentioning earlier at some conferences in the UAE in particular. But doesn't this project, how does it protect users' privacy if we're talking about Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC in this case?
Yes. So there's a kind of American expression we say, I get this all the time,
Okay.
People ask me, I was at the Satoshi Roundtable here in Dubai a little while ago, and there were a lot of people meeting about CBDC. It was like a big group, maybe 30 people. And one of my friends said, David, just don't go there. Go around that. Don't let them see you because they are hostile to CBDC. And I understand that. And, people so when the European Central Bank put out a public call for comments about CBDC some years ago, it's very well known that 40% of the responses were about privacy. And, if you look at the difference between what we hope to have in the West and what some major countries in the East have, this privacy thing is a big differentiator. Now, of course, and generally advocates, you join a movement. It's you are encouraged by your co-advocates, and usually you kind of paint the bad guys with a pretty wide brush. It's like they're all rotten, and we were against anything like that, and then your buddies say, yeah. And I understand that. But I did something with CBDC very deliberately, and now it's had a very funny consequence, which I'll explain in a moment. But I was afraid that governments would say, we'd like to have privacy in our CBDC, of course, but we can't really have, the Chaumian privacy where you control your own privacy with the secrets that you created, because that would be weak. Maybe a quantum computer could break it, or, the security wouldn't be as good as we need it to protect you because we're the government, right? And so therefore, we can't really have you protecting your own privacy. Just trust us. We'll protect your privacy, because then we'll have a really secure system. And I can easily imagine that happening. So we wouldn't get real user-controlled privacy in the West. And I think that would be the end, because even little kids know you can't really trust other people with your secrets, right? Too much, because it's going to leak out, right? Everyone knows this.
Well, it depends whom you like leaking
Well,
secrets, let's say, like this.
Let's say like the U.S. government couldn't even keep all the information they had about all the people who applied for security clearances secret. That was all leaked. Unbelievable. Any kind of corporate database, government database, all leaked. Look at the Snowden thing. I mean, really, the super secret stuff of the NSA. So it's all leaked. So it just doesn't. Information wants to be free. Even kids know. I think that it wouldn't give you a warm feeling of privacy if the government said, "Oh, trust us with your data," right? So especially now. So what I wanted to do was prove irrefutably that there's absolutely no good reason to give up user-controlled privacy in order to get security in the CBDC. And the way I did that was designing ecash 2.0 so that it has better security than any system that's ever been fielded. And that is what we call unconditional or information theoretic security. In other words, even with a quantum computer or a billion quantum computers or unlimited computing power or some kind of computers they have on Mars or we don't even know about, whatever, it doesn't matter. AI, it will not help you counterfeit this money.
How?
And I can explain it very simply, if you'd like to know. Yeah,
sure.
It's something I invented like 30 years ago called fail-stop signatures. And it's a very simple idea. So in ecash, right, I randomly create my money number. Think of it like a long serial number for a piece of money. And then I hash that. Now I have the hash image, so the secret serial number, that's the pre-image, and then the hash is the image. And then I homomorphically encrypt that image, that hash, and I send it into the bank. And I say, okay, it's me. I want to take $100 out. Please sign this with your $100 signing key. So they sign it with that special key, making it worth $100, send it back. Now I can remove the homomorphic encryption, and now I have the bank's worth $100 signature on my hash image. Okay, but they don't know what my hash image is, and of course no one knows what my pre-image is. And so then later so they can't take my money away, and later when I want to spend it, I say, okay, here's the hash image, and here's the signature on it, and people say, that's great, but, we got to check to see if it's already been spent, right? So they look on the spent coin list, they know it's not on that list yet, we'll put it on there, but David, you have to prove that you have the pre-image. And so I say, okay, fine, I'm going to reveal the pre-image to you, but first, just give me a signature back saying if you show us the pre-image to this hash, you get the $100 right now. It's not on the spent coin list.
Yeah.
So once I get that signature, I reveal the pre-image, and now the payment is final. So it's a beautiful, perfect system. That's the original ecash 1.0. Now, ecash 2.0 improves on that, and it actually leads to better than money. Is kind of interesting. Now, how it does it is to get to the unconditional protection against counterfeiting is very simple. That hash function is not, what you might think. It just doesn't take, let's say, 1,000-bit pre-image secret into a 1,000-bit hash image. It takes a, let's say, 1,200-bit pre-image into a 1,000-bit hash image. So there's an extra 200 bits on the input. Okay. That means that on average, there's 2 to the 200 inputs that would create that same output. So bear with me, Maria, just for a second, right?
Yeah.
So what that means is that even if with super intelligence, Martians, unlimited computing power, you can stare at that hash image all day long, and you will never be able to guess my secret input, my pre-image. So you will have to try to spend the money, and then I will say, hey, wait a minute, that's money, my money, right? Here's my pre-image. It will differ from yours with unbelievably high probability, right? But in the hash function world, if you ever show 2 pre-images for the same image, we call that a claw. It means the system's broken. So it's a very short proof that the whole hash system is broken. So that's what a fail-stop signature does. You see, with the original ecash 1.0, people might be counterfeiting it, and you might think, well, there's a lot more money being spent here than we issue, but we're not really sure because we're not sure how long people are holding it before they spend it. And before you know it, there's a lot of counterfeiting that's happening. You never really can say, okay, we're stopping this, because you have no proof. But with ecash 2.0, as soon as the first notes are counterfeit, boom, there's an irrefutable proof, and you stop. So that's why we can say it's a super secure against counterfeiting. And then there's an additional aspect, which I'm just mentioning real briefly, because we talked about mixing, right? So what is mixing? It's a very simple idea. When you play cards sitting around the table, you shuffle, then you give the cards to the person on your left, they shuffle, and so on. It goes around the table. Maybe some people don't really shuffle. They pretend to shuffle, but they don't really. It doesn't matter. If even one person in there really shuffles good, then by the time it gets all the way around, it's fully shuffled, right? That's the idea of mixing. I take this hash image and I encrypt it in a special way, send it into the mixed network. A lot of other people do. The first node in the network shuffles them, changes the encryption a little bit, sends it to the next node. They shuffle, change the encryption a little, and send it along. Now, if any one of those nodes is honest, then no one can tell which input corresponds with which output. So you don't have to know which one is honest, just if there is any one. So this is what we do in XX Network that I founded, which is a super great system. If you don't know about it, you should familiarize yourself with it. But so with XX Network, you send the messages in, and they get mixed and sent around and around the world, and mixed and sent. So in ecash 2.0, when you get your image signed under the homomorphic encryption, you also take another version of it and you encrypt it for mixing, and it gets mixed and ends up being published. So instead of a list of already spent numbers that prevents double spending, we have now a list of ready to spend numbers that it doesn't grow. It's just the numbers that are ready. You can't spend it unless it's on that list. And so The only way to cheat is to find a number on that list and then figure out a pre-image for it and try to spend it. But that's where I showed you, even with infinite computing power, you can't get away with that.
Even with this
quantum,
is very, by the way.
Yeah.
This
I don't
is really
care what kind of quantum computers, you know, Martian computers, unlimited, doesn't matter. No matter what you do, you can stare at that hash forever. You're never going to be able to make a better guess than a random guess as to which random number I chose that created it. And if you guess different from what I chose, then I just prove that you're cheating by showing my pre-image, and boom, we call that a concise proof of counterfeiting. So that means the system's broken.
You know, from this perspective, I definitely will be following this closely because I'm really curious when we're talking about additionally about quantum computers, how it will be developing over the years, because obviously right now they cannot operate under normal circumstances. So it will be really interesting actually to look at, like, let's say in 5 years, what will be happening.
Well, let me just real quick just say this, that the history of cryptography since the Second World War has been that the US government has repeatedly, from the very beginning, over and over again, promulgated cryptographic systems that they knew how to break. From the very first days, they gave out cryptographic equipment after the war to their allies, but they already knew how to break it. And this has happened over and over again. They bought these Swiss companies and operated them as if they were Swiss companies. They were selling breakable crypto. I broke that crypto. I can tell you it's breakable. I did it for, you know, with a white hat on, you know, to help major companies decide what to use.
Which ones? Can you
I broke both Crypto AG, which is irrefutably a CIA and BND, but the German Secret Service, proprietary company that was selling cryptographic equipment to all kinds of countries. It's the leading exporter of cryptographic equipment for military and diplomatic use globally. It was being run by the CIA, by the NSA and the BND, and I broke it. And the Swiss, this is now in the newspapers in Switzerland, and the Swiss are really, really mad because it, you know, made them look really bad that this was run by the U.S. government secretly. And then there's another second company, not in Zug, but also in near Zurich, was called Greytog. And funny thing is, Greytog made those giant projectors that I was talking about for the video projection, you know, with those giant, like 3 big lenses, remember those big things? But Greytog made the Greytog coder, which was used by Swift. And I broke it. I broke it on a single flip chart. I showed them how to break it on one, remember what a flip chart is? Just one flip chart. And I used what's called differential cryptanalysis before it was public. So it freaked them out, and then, you know, they had to pay me to fix it. They had to pay me to fix it. But it means that the US government could watch all high-value money transfers in the world up until that point, at least, and they could inject them too. And, you know, it has happened that people walked out of De Beers with $50 million packet of uncut diamonds that was paid for by a Swift transfer, and later it turned out to be fraudulent. So there, you know, who knows what all happened with that, you know, but I wasn't involved in any criminal activity, but I'm just saying, it's, and that same Greytog coder was also like camo colored, sold to a lot of countries around the world for military use and diplomatic use. So I'm just trying to say that, you know, and the NSA was caught, you know, bribing the RSA security company with $10 million to put a backdoor in the random number generator that they had, and over and over and over again. So now the US government is saying, oh, you know, we're worried about quantum computers. Use these new quantum safe algorithms that we're proposing here. Don't worry about, you know, the man behind the curtain, right? Just use these. You know, it's public, whatever. And so, like, big companies are like, oh, great. Everyone's going to have to change all their cryptography. We can make a lot of money selling them new stuff, right? But the truth is that those quantum safe algorithms are probably breakable without even having a quantum computer. And, or if you need a quantum computer to break them, you can be sure that the US government already has one in their lab. There are photographs of cryogenic, super cooled computers being, rolled into the NSA in the 60s. I mean, the Joseph Junction, they are very ahead. These guys have more money than God. They can do whatever they want. So to think that they're going to tell you how to make codes that they can't break, you got to be smoking something. Really, come on, please. It's over and over again. Look at the Snowden revelations. These are the guys that intercept the routers in the FedEx system, switch the chips. They'll do anything to break everything, and it's unbelievable. They've been able to break everything, and if you have that much money and that many dedicated people, and so it's so quantum. The whole quantum safe thing is a hoax to just keep on letting governments break stuff. But what I'm talking about is not quantum safe. It's unconditionally secure. It's the real deal. It's the same thing I was talking about in the 80s for privacy protection. So, it gets me a little riled up. Sorry, but it's just I just can't believe it. It's just people have such a short memory. They forget this. It's you see it over and over again.
Encrypted is your exclusive ticket to the epicenter of technological innovations in the MENA region. I would like to, again, address one of the pieces that you've written about particular risks of data accumulation in light of artificial intelligence. And that we could never know what AI can do with this information. So is there still a path that you believe that people can actually get control for that people can that AI can bring some benefits to the world, everyone, and we can still have control over that, not only like some, let's say, only like certain people, but can AI, let's say, be decentralized as well? That's one of the very interesting things that I'm asking quite a lot of people, that they have very different views on that.
Well, it's definitely an interesting line of inquiry. And I have written a little book about this, which has not yet been published. And
okay, so we can actually talk about this.
I can't really, I don't want to spoil it, but if you read it,
just a teaser,
you'll find that it's a very optimistic scenario for the world. So in a sense, privacy technology is the key element, and people can, if the public, I developed this thing called sample voting, except for the state. It's guerrilla democracy. You can prove that a majority of a population support a particular issue with just for like $1,000, just by sending some letters. So with that, if we can catalyze a social movement to cool the planet through the astrocool technology, then people will be pulled together, believing they control. They have the power, and they are making the world a better place. And that can lead to a much more democratic form in which AI can be, it's called Aikido. The idea is like it's a martial arts move. You can turn AI on itself. You can use its power to protect you, so people can use AIs to individually to protect society, and we can basically harness the power of AI to make sure that people are in control. Elon Musk said not that long ago, AI can do any job. Any job that anyone has could be done by AI, but he's definitely wrong, because the one job that AI certainly cannot do is to represent humans and against AI. You have to vote as a person, to protect the rights of people against AI, and that you cannot give that job to an AI, and that's what Aikido and my work, is really aimed at, is empowering people to have the last word on all kinds of decisions that shape society through this sample voting technology. And if you're interested, write to me, and I'm happy to tell you a bit more about it. But that I have a vision for how that can all happen. But I think that the better the money is a more urgent proposition to spread the meme that you can control your own privacy and to enrich, or at least create the opportunity for the global poor to enrich themselves and to avoid a global liquidity crisis, which will be devastating. And people in the know in the financial system realize that the current structures are not robust against this, right? You realize that, Silicon Valley Bank and GameStop was just very easily done by a few people sending a few social media messages, right? We don't have a robust financial system. It may very well be brought to collapse just because people can organize a little more effectively than back in the paper-based only world. So we have to, increase global prosperity in a way that people are motivated to empower, capital and democracy and protect society from AI. And I have, been working for 40 years to help, move this idea forward. And now we're in critical endgame, and the smartphone is, it's really created. This is it. And AI has now hit the public's attention. But AI is like cryptanalysis. Don't forget that. We don't really know who is doing what with AI, and it's all, a lot of it's behind the scenes. So, recently we heard a big controversy about maybe there was a big breakthrough, but it wasn't disclosed to the public. So I don't know if you've noticed that about, the recent. So it's, this is it, people. It's endgame.
So today we had David Chaum, famous computer scientist, founder of DigiCash and Godfather of Cryptocurrency. Right now we're moving to our rapid fire questions. Stay tuned. Rapid fire questions. So David, right now we will have rapid fire questions round. I will ask you to answer like one or two probably words or one sentence really quick.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. If you had to explain ecash to a child, how would you do this in one sentence?
It's a banknote where you create the serial number yourself, and no one can see it until you spend it.
Name 5 qualities that you believe a real entrepreneur should have.
Passion, leadership, passion, and inventiveness.
Okay. What would you never do while building a company?
Never be unnecessarily unkind to anyone.
Okay. Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
What's your favorite programming language?
Well, I wrote the first blockchain in Settle.
Amazing. The moment that you're the most proud of in your career?
When I decided to double down on better than money.
Okay. My business philosophy is?
Well, I like to have an unfair advantage.
If you could time travel, which era would you go to? Which era would you like to visit?
The future one that I envision.
Okay, interesting. What time?
Well, maybe...
Which decade, probably?
Maybe 30, 40 years out.
Interesting. If there were a movie about your life, how would you call it?
It's hard to change the world, but it's possible.
Interesting. The next big trend for everyone to follow?
Better than money.
Interesting. And what is your personal formula for success?
Well, you really have to selflessly work hard. That's what I do.
Thank you. And Dubai for you is associated with? Our major question, the last question we were asking all the time. Dubai for you is associated with, David?
I really like Dubai. I think I could see living here. It's a fabulous.
So you can see like next home.
Okay, it's Dubai, next home.
Okay, thank you. Today we had David Chaum, famous computer scientist, founder of DigiCash, and at the same time right now the founder of Better Than Money. Thank you for watching and see you next time. From the gleaming skyscrapers of Dubai to the innovation hubs of the Middle East and beyond, Encrypted brings you thought-provoking discussions, exclusive insights, and stories of innovation that will leave you inspired.